Hey guys, thanks for joining me. I've got an interesting product from Pecron today, and no, it's not the E3600 LFP. I have actually done a review on that. If you haven't seen that, I'll link to it in the description below. But this is a product by Pecron that I think will be very useful for some of you, maybe not for everyone. But if you happen to be a power station user and you also happen to be taking your power station in a mobile application like an RV, a van, an SUV, any other type of camper situation where you are on the road with this and you don't have access to a lot of solar, and or maybe you don't have time to sit around camp with a portable solar panel or to set up charging this thing during the day when you actually have sun. I found personally that when I've done road trips, I just don't have time to utilize solar since I don't have solar on the roof of my SUV. So this is not really an option for me. So when I'm driving to and from trailheads, I'm often sort of relegated to using good old-fashioned 12-volt sort of cigarette lighter socket charging, which these power stations do support. And that's fine if you're using something like, say, a 500 watt-hour capacity power station, or maybe smaller. But if you're using a power station bigger than that, say anything over the 500 watt-hour capacity, you're probably going to find that charging via this little 12-volt socket is going to take a very long time and not really going to replenish your state of charge in a reasonable amount of time. In fact, taking a look at this guy's only inputting 77 watts through a 12-volt car charger socket. And I think the best case scenario might be 120 watts if you're lucky, but usually it's 100 watts or less. But if you look here on the screen, the estimate to recharge this thing, I'm currently sitting at 10%, is 32 hours and 48 minutes. So unless you're a long haul trucker, I don't see how that's super helpful. So what are your options then? Well, there is a very, very good option. It's a DC charger that connects to your car's battery and uses the car's alternator to provide a much better charging solution than having to sit around and wait for solar to charge it at camp, or maybe having only access to 100 or 200 watts of solar on your roof, if that's the case. So check this out. This is Pecron's Smart Car Charger, and it'll allow you to charge at up to 500 watts. And it does have, well, it's got an on-off button here, and then it's got a cable attached here that has MC4 connections. So it's designed to allow you to charge through your power station's solar panel input. So this will take a maximum input from the alternator of 50 amps, and it'll output a maximum of 13 amps, so 500 watts. The output voltage on this is 42 volts. So you do want to make sure that the power station you connect this to is got an input range, voltage range, that includes at least 42 volts. If your input max is, say, 36 volts, well, this is not going to be suitable for that. But if your input range is 42 volts or higher, the max input voltage on your solar input, then this might make a very economical solution. This only costs about 150 bucks. And I did review one of these by EcoFlow, which actually output quite a bit more than this one did, but it also cost quite a bit more, and it was very specific to EcoFlow Delta series power stations. It really wasn't compatible with other types of power stations. This uses, as you can see, MC4 connectors, so anything that supports at least 42 volts on the DC inputs is fair game. So it comes with a really long cable here. This is about, I think they list this at 5 meters, so call it about 16 feet or so. And this allows you to have enough cable run to get all the way up, and it's got a fuse there on it to connect with a little eye ring connectors here to connect to your battery. And then it's got an XT90 connector on the other side that you plug into the other end of this smart charger. Now it also has a dial on the side, which is, if I can get a close-up of that guy right there, and it allows you to kind of set what the minimum starting voltage range is. And why that's important is because you don't want to really have this running when the alternator is not running. So in a 12-volt system on your car, when the car is not turned on, you're only going to get 12-ish nominal volts out of that DC battery system. And by the way, this will work on a 24-volt system as well. So it's dual compatible with 12 and 24 volt. So basically you want this in the, the appropriate position where when your car is not running, this is not outputting. And then when your car is on, the alternator is supplying higher voltage to charge that battery than the standard 12 volt nominal. And that is what would then trigger this to allow it to begin charging. So this is basically kind of a sensitivity switch to keep it from draining your car's battery when the alternator is not there to provide power back to it. So we're going to simulate this and kind of test and see how it works. And we're just basically going to use, just to test, I'm curious about the 24 volt. So I'm going to use a 24 volt lithium iron phosphate battery that should be outputting something like 26 volts or so. And we're going to hook this up and see if we can get something like 500 watts into this and dramatically improve our charge time. So let's hook it up and see how it works. All right, I've got the Pecron smart charger connected over here to the positive and negative poles of my 24 volt battery. And I just ran the cable around here. I've got all this cable left, plugged it into the back of the smart charger. And now all I have to do is turn the smart charger on. Now, I did go ahead and set the dial to 12 volt / 24 volts. So I'm assuming it'll auto detect. Now I'm going to check the output voltage just to be sure. It says it's going to output about 42 volts. I want to make sure if that is correct. So let me go ahead and turn this on. Let's see if we get the correct voltage out of this. Yes, and we are reading, in fact, 42.27 volts. So that is very important, so I'm glad that's accurate, but it's very important to note, as I said, you do not want to plug this product into the input source of a power station that cannot handle more than 42 volts on the DC input. And all power stations do publish that spec. So I'm going to connect the solar input cable for this E3600. And if you can see right up here, I have an input voltage range on this from 32 volts up to 150 volts on either one of these input ports. So that is well within the range. All right, let's see if our input watts will count up, and hopefully we'll get something in the neighborhood of close to 500 watts. And there we are, 501 watts. It's bouncing around just a little bit, 509 watts. All right, we are getting actually a little bit more than 500 watts. So 514 watts, 509 watts. It does move around a little bit. But most importantly, look at our expected charge time to complete. 5 hours and 35 minutes. We were at 38 hours, almost 39 hours using that little 12 volt port. But now we're getting a full 500 watts, and now we're in to be able to charge this thing just off this little smart charger in just over 5 hours. And this is a massive monster power station, 3,072 watt hours. So we're able to take it from 90% to 100% in just about 5.5 hours. So if you had something, let's say you had a 1,000 watt hour capacity power station, you'd be able to do that in about a third of that time. So maybe an hour and 45 minutes, something in that neighborhood. Now, one thing I will say is it does have a little bit of an on-off fan. The fan is pretty noticeable when you do hear it, but if you're in a car situation, I don't think you're going to notice it over the road noise hardly at all. So as long as the car is running, which is when this is running, having that little bit of extra noise is, at least from my perspective, probably a non-issue. So yeah, I'm super enthusiastic about this product because for basically the price of a budget 100 watt portable solar panel, you're getting 500 watts of reliable input charge power for a power station, provided that your power station does accept at least 42 volts. So make sure you check that in your product manual specs. But this is an excellent solution for people who travel a lot when they're out road tripping and they're not just sitting around a camp and they have lots of time to charge via solar. And hey, if you do also have that, this might be a supplemental use case where there are times when you are and times when you aren't. So maybe you have the portable solar solution when you are at camp, and then you have something like this when you're on the road frequently. So for about 150 bucks, definitely worth checking out. And I'll leave links to this per usual in the description below if you do want to go check it out. So I think that's a wrap on this short video. If you did find anything helpful or informative at all, please consider clicking that like button for me. I'd very much appreciate that. Thanks for spending some of your time with me on this one, and I do hope you'll consider joining me for the next one. Until then, have fun out there.